BugeyeBob back here again. This week we are going to try for the third time to get a good panel replacement here. I made one on the other side. I took and made a pattern of it, cut it all out. It all seemed to fit just fine. Got over to this side, and as you saw last week, it didn't fit for shit. I don't know why. Maybe this was built like on a Monday morning or a Friday afternoon or a Thursday morning after the Wednesday night darts league. I don't know. Maybe the replacement panels are slightly different from the originals. I don't know what the hell's going on, but we're going to fix it. So that's the panel that I had made. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to make a whole new pattern. So what I've done is I've taken this piece of poster board, put it up against the side here. I'm now going to go around I'll now go around with this magic marker. Made sure this was pretty straight right here. Got to come back around on this side, make sure it stays fairly tight up against this edge. Oops, come down through here. Come down inside of here. Now let's roll this up. Clang, clang, clang. What is that sound I hear? Come up in here. Find the bottom of this thing, which is right about there. Trace along the edge of it. Find the bottom of this other piece, which is right about there. Trace along the edge of it. Reach down and swat that like button, pop in a quick comment, and subscribe to this channel. You can help save Lazarus from the scrap bin by making a one-time donation via PayPal or join as a member on Patreon. See the links below. Pull my magnets off. There's kind of sort of my pattern. I will cut inside the lines, trim it up a little bit, and be back in a minute. Okay, I'm going to straighten up my lines here. Let's cut that out. What's that? Now let's see how the damn thing fits. Between there and there, it needs to be a straight line. I think we're good. Now the only problem is, this is the line right here where the new inner sill fits. It is almost a ½ inch higher right here than where the old one fits. So that tells me that there is a difference between new and old panels. Between the fact that this new inner panel is slightly higher in here and the fact that my flanging tool is, I think, 7/16 instead of ½ inch. So if I get this up here There you can see the flange. This is the offset. This is the part that will get pushed up to make the flange, and the rest of the panel will sit over here. There's what the flange looks like. You can see it. Well, we can't see it. Probably easier to see it that way. But anyways, there's what the flange looks like. And that measures actually slightly less than 0.46. 0.43, which sounds suspiciously similar to some other number like 0.375, 0.4375, 0.43, 7/16, 0.4375. So that is 7/16. I was right. It looks like that's going to raise that up where it needs to be. How's that going to work out with the line? The bottom of it's going to be right there. Oh shit, that's not right. That's the top of the metal, the new metal. Shit, I can't tell if I got that right or not. So my metal line is up in here, right there. Up in here, right there. Dead on right here. So I may have to raise this up more back through here. But we look good on this end, and we're definitely good back in here from what I can see. Okay, I like the way everything fits except right along in here. This needs to come down just a tiny bit, like a 1/16 of an inch from right here to right there. This piece looks like, and this is factory, but it looks like it does this dip a little bit. Got my two holes. This shows the top of the metal, so that's where we want the flange to go high enough up to where that metal will be able to recess back onto the flange. So this is a little short in here, it's a little short back here. Not a problem. We'll just tape a little bit extra metal on. This needs to come off. This needs to come down right in here. Come on, you bastard. And in there we need to lose some. So tape that back down. And just shredded giggles. Tape it down on this side too. I think we're good with that pattern right there. Of course, I said that about the last three patterns. So I have a 4-foot by 4-foot sheet of steel that I can cut this out of. Probably lay it out like this somehow. Or maybe like this somehow would be better. Something like that. And now I need to get out the Angry Pixies and cut this out. As you can see, the Angry Pixies have done their dance and made a new outer footwell panel. I have clecoed the inner sill and the outer footwell panel into place. Still need to drill the two holes here. Need to drill one hole over here. My guess is right now this is just slightly bowed because I forgot to take the nuts off the old panel before I laid this one up against it, which means all of these holes down here might be off by a slight bit, but that's not because what's really important is the alignment of these clecos back here, these clecos up here, these clecos here, which position the inner sill where it needs to be. And I'm pretty certain that I've got this piece cut to the exact right size to where I put the flanging tool on it. It'll leave me the space for this flange to go in tight against it. These clecos up here are important, down here are important. These clecos along here, if they're not exactly right, I can probably tweak them with the drill, but it's not going to matter a whole lot because these pieces will be spot welded together. It will be spot welded on the end here. It will be spot welded back here on this piece. So, coming up next is going to be cleaning all of this crap off of this and prepping it for welding into place. Third time is a charm. Yes, I have made this effing panel 3 times. Now, the problem that I ran into was, how do you get things in the right position? So when I first started putting this all together, I had this panel in, I put in the inner sill, got it all lined up, put it all together, and then came back and started putting in the outer sill. And the outer sill ended up about 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch lower than the inner sill. At which point I said nasty bad words, thought back for a minute and said, okay, I guess the way you've got to do this is you've got to put the outer sill on, slide up the inner sill to get it lined up so that the top of these 2 pieces line up fairly well, anchor down the inner sill, then you have to take off the outer sill, and basically you can line up this spot for the inner sill, this spot for the inner sill, and that will give you, and you can line up a couple of spots here on the back for the inner sill also. And that will give you where the inner sill has to be, and then you can tear all this stuff off, the outer sill all off, and put the inner sill in. And in the process of going through all that, I found out that this piece had been cut too short twice. Actually, I cut it once and tried it out, thought I had it all right, didn't fit. Cut it again, tried it all out, and found out that I was about 7/16 of an inch too short on that end. There's the first one I tried, and you notice I didn't even get to the point of putting a flange on that. This is the second one. I got to the point of putting the flange on it, and you can see right here I found that it was almost 7/16 of an inch too short there, and it was a little too short back on this end, which led me to making this third piece and got that all right. So, third time was the charm. Now, everything up here, and the way that I set this up was I realized this part right here on your outer sill has to bump up against this lip right here. So that sets the position to the outer sill on the front. This spot right here, the outer sill has to press up against, so that sets the outer sill on the back. Once you get the outer sill set, then you can come back and do your inner sill. By adjusting the height of the inner sill, drill holes through here, drill another hole through right there, and anchor your inner sill down. Then you can strip off your outer sill and finish off all the stuff necessary to get the inner sill set in place, which includes putting the flange into this piece and trimming it all so that you get the flange the right thickness and everything, and get that all taken care of. Now, everything fits fine, except this is not too bad. Right here, this piece comes down and buckles in, and I don't know why. I know I hit some in here, so I'm guessing that what happened was when I accidentally hit in here, trying to separate these pieces apart, it also pushed this in back here. So I'm going to have to somehow bring this out. Now, I don't have one of those stud welders to pull metal out with. I could try putting screws in and pulling it out with screws. I'm not impressed with the looks of how that all turns out. So my plan is going to be that I am going to cut some metal out right in here so that I have probably a piece about like that that allows me to get back in there and hopefully use something to drive that edge in that corner back out. That's the only thing I can think of to try to do. So what that means is I didn't get as much done this week as I would have liked to. Had other things going on, and you have life, so life happens. I am at the point now where I should be able to tear this apart, get the outer sill off. You know what, maybe I'll do that real quick, just for the hell of it. So the reason for the screws is this piece here was bent out like so, and I had to use the screws, and I had to put pieces of wood, top and bottom, like this, use a big C-clamp to squeeze this all together, because this inner sill should line up right with this spot right here, all along the inside. And in order to get that to happen, I had to clamp this, squeeze this all together, and then Clecos would not be able to hold that well enough, so I ran screws in top and bottom. So that's the reason why you see screws in some places and Clecos in others. That's the problem with screws, is sometimes they don't want to come all the way out. I'm using self-tapping screws, and they reach the point where all that's left is the very tip. They don't want to pop the rest of the way out. Now then, as you can see, there's places where this inner panel has to go between, it gets sandwiched between this panel and the outer sill. So the inner sill gets sandwiched between them. So you can't just take and hook and then back here, there's a place where this has to slide up between something else. So trying to, I mean, maybe you could do it, but trying to weld the inner and outer sills together off of the car and put them in together as one unit, I think would be a problem. Maybe somebody else can do it, but I don't think I could. You can see that this has got a nice offset back here, so that all fits together just fine. Got to weld on the two nuts, got to drill a small 1/4 inch hole up here, and then I can weld this into place. I've got to cut a tab to put up here and fix this spot right here, get it welded into place. Then I can weld the inner sill into place, and then I can deal with the outer sill. Next week's stuff, along with, because the main reason, first off, I'm out of time for this week, but the other thing I've got to do is back here, I've got to get this so that the rear of this panel comes out about almost 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch right here. It just feels right in here, but for some reason, this rear outer sill doesn't want to line up with this. Lines up with that fine, doesn't want to line up with this. I don't know if maybe the car was smashed one time in the side here, and when they repaired it, this ended up back in further, and they just screwed around with the other outer sill to make it fit. I thought about just doing that, but then you've got weird looking body lines, so I'm not going to do that. So Now, one of the questions is going to be, but Bob, why did you cut out 3 of these and make 3 of these again instead of just buying a new panel? Well, new panel with shipping, roughly $85. 4x4 sheet of steel, $76. I can cut a whole bunch of these pieces out of a 4x4 sheet of steel, and I can learn a lot doing it. And if that $85 piece of replacement doesn't fit, what do? I got to modify a whole bunch of other shit anyways, which probably means adding steel someplace, taking steel some out, reforming it, whatever. But my preference is I'll make the damn thing. Did I waste some steel? Actually, no. Because even though these other pieces have been cut to this shape, there's still a lot of good steel in here. Even these little holes, no biggie. I can pop them up. I can hit them with a welder and fill them up and grind them down, and you'll never know it. And there are times when you cannot buy a replacement piece. And I will show you an instance right now. That little piece in the corner, that little piece right there in that corner, you can't buy. You got to make it. Practice with doing the sheet metal and you can make it. Some other pieces. You want to repair this wing, this front fender? You can spend close to $1,000 to get a new front fender, or you can spend a little time, manually shape the piece. It'd help if I had an English wheel, but you can shape those pieces and make a replacement yourself. So if you want all fancy factory parts that you may still have to adapt, as I have run into a couple of times, then go ahead and spend your money on those factory parts. Now for things like this outer sill, that's a custom shape. I can't do that. I don't have the equipment to do that. I'll buy it. These sill end caps, again, custom shape. Could I do it? Yeah, I could. I could probably cut this piece out as a flat, this, then take another piece as a flat, weld it all up. Fitzy Fabrications, Fitzy does it all the time. I'm not that good. Same with this one, same idea. You could make that up out of flat pieces without having to have a die to form it. Again, I'm not that good. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. Comments are great, folks. Love comments, questions. Obviously, you see me doing things wrong. I'm putting it in the videos because everybody does shit wrong. You can learn from my mistakes without having to redo the same mistakes yourself. That's it for this week. You folks have a blessed life, and we will see you next week with more carnage. BugeyeBob, over and out.